And our experience in Kandahar was a problem because we got caught there. We got stranded. When we flew in on a commercial flight, the expectation was it'd take a few weeks, even when the fighting started to really get serious, we'd be able to kind of get out. What we didn't expect and we didn't foresee was that these soldiers would just so quickly give up the city. When it did happen, the airlines all shut down flights. The UN evacuation flights also shut down. Everything was shutting down. And when that was happening, we started to kind of worry what we were going to do. By the end, we found ourselves with one of the most elite units in the country called the 03 unit. They are CIA trained, American funded. These guys spent 20 years becoming the go-to military force that America relies upon in their stead. U.S. never lets access to them, but in this case, it was so desperate that we just kind of found ourselves with them and protected with them. They were the ones who were the airfield, and the Taliban agreed to give a truce and let these planes fly in and fly everyone out. So in the middle of the night, about 2 a.m., 6 carrier planes filled with just hundreds of military soldiers each. It was just a really intense scene of hundreds of people kind of packing in and trying to climb onto these. You see them now happening in Kabul, but then it was surprising to see these military units, basically like fighting for their lives to get out of there. And it was a really harrowing scene, seeing in the distance. We could see the shots in the air of tracers for the Taliban shooting in the air and celebrating. And we could get the sense that, this was a bittersweet moment, because although they didn't have to fight and lose their lives, this was how the war was kind of faring for them, which is they were losing.
I think the story that people in Washington might be trying to tell is that the Afghan military forces had the resources they need, they just lacked the will to fight. From what you've seen and how it went down, what do you make of that?
I think it's an oversimplification. We spent a lot of time on the front line with the fighters in Kandahar, and they were exhausted. They were outgunned, they were underfed, they were undersupplied, and they just were exhausted by it all. So this idea that they didn't have the gumption, they didn't have the ability or the will to get into the fight, it's not true, and it's disrespectful of these people that were really fighting. And when the dominoes started falling and these people were all handing it over, the bigger reality is the soldiers that did want to fight didn't have the support. Thousands of Taliban guys compared to just a few hundred willing soldiers. It's not a fair fight.
I'm wondering what you're hearing about people on the ground that you have been in contact with who might be trying to get out, who are fearful of what a Taliban regime might entail in the near and the future, and what's going on.
It's the biggest problem right now is that the people that are trying to get out, it's not specific to people that work with the military or people that were interpreters. It's not just any one subset. It's everyone. Everyone in the country is looking for a way out, some way or another. I'm getting calls from high military officials asking if I know anybody that they can talk to.
They're calling you?
Calling me, asking if I have some contacts at some embassy or something that they don't know about. Getting calls from all of the people we worked with, looking for any way out. And there's really no answer. So now, we're living in this world where there's not a real thought going into what's going to happen with the Afghan people.
Well, thank you, Ben. Glad to see you're back safe, and there's so much more to talk about and to see from your reporting. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Thanks.
It was the hardest and the very worst. It was the condition that I have ever experienced. And I want that America know that our life is in danger.
The U.S. government loves to say, we don't negotiate with terrorists. But for the last few days, U.S. military officials have been meeting in Doha, trying to work out a deal with the Taliban that would protect.
To give a deposition to camera about whether he stole sheep from a local herder, as well as other crimes. He's been sitting in Taliban jail since his arrest and has no representation at this hearing.
بدون د نور څومره غلې کړی ته
نه مې لیکلي
کتر باندې ثابته شو
کله باندې ثابته شو لاس مې باندې وځي
خطا په دوه باندې مونږ کاروي عریضه چا در باندې وکړه
د وری چک تندرای څلور ورځې باندې وم په بندیخانه کې
چې د ورای په لاس ورکړ
قرآن په لاس ور
راز د چای په شو کې دی وری
پاکی خورنی
راز د چای په پوینده کې خود بیا څه غول نه خوري
نه داسې جاکو بیا نه وان داسې اشتباه بیا نه
صحیح شو کینه
نه داسې جاکو
دو جزا یا د لاس متول یا بازار کې په درو وایي
In terms of the cases that you've dealt with today, what are the potential punishments that they could be served in the end?
اوس داسې د غټ غلو د پوره مثلا د لاس وڅول شته کې کنه د غټ غلو د پوره او د غوځو کې چې دا اوس په جرم کې دای راشي چې شای چې په شریعت کې تشته چې په قرآن کې دغه دلته مو په تدبیر کې
The man that was sat in front of you that was accused of stealing, potentially, at the end of the court case, he might have his hand cut off.
هغه ته د خپل اصول او طرز العمل شته نو ان شاء الله خود شته ورنه
Human rights organizations would look at this scene and see men who don't have representatives, who don't have anybody putting forward their case, who have people who don't necessarily have the judicial or legal experience to be able to be handing out punishments, deciding the fate of an individual. And they would say that that isn't justice. What would you say to them?
نو دا سوال د همکانه دی موږ هر زده کړه موږ هر عمل موږ هر کردار د موافق او مطابق د قرآن او د شریعت دی اضافه نور هیڅ شی نشته کوي
So is this the justice system that you would like to see implemented in Kabul and across Afghanistan?
نو دا خو عملی دی په دوه کې شک نشته هغه ساحې چې د امارات کنټرول لاندې دي اسلامي امارات کنټرول لاندې په هغو کې په قطعا دغه امارات کنټرول لاندې دي اسلامي امارات کنټرول لاندې په هغو کې په قطعا دغه د قرآن